Backyard DIY engineering, Jim coming at you. We're going to take this 20-foot container and turn it into this awesome YouTube studio.
Let's get it started. Turn on the power.
In this video, we are going to make a video studio and an audio studio perfect for our YouTube channel. And we're going to include the green screen, all the camera mounts, all the tips and tricks that I've learned by mistakes. Mics, sound capture, cameras, green screen, lights, the computer to put it all together, along with video capture card and props and prop holders, mics and the mic holders. Wait a second, I said mics already, but I just thought I'd say it one. And because my channel is tailored towards DIY, we'll also talk about a few engineering tools as we pan around, including the 3D printers, the solder station. So the first thing we needed to do in this video is we needed to get everything out of the way. So we went ahead and cleaned everything, and then we got started on the back wall portion of the room. So what you'll see here is that we're putting up the studs. We're dealing a little bit with the warped walls because this container was a bit damaged. But we went ahead and we got around that by modifying some of the boards, and we put into our sound barrier installation. Next, we used a pegboard wall material that allows the sound to go into the wall and be absorbed by the sound absorption. This really helps deaden the sound and keeps reverberation from happening. This is very important for sound. We also went with the white-faced pegboard because it creates a diffused surface that reflects the light without many glares. Now we will continue putting up the wall studs and the floor joists. What we are doing currently now, and the issue we kept running into, is that the container that we decided to use is actually a little bit bent on the sides and on the roof. So what we had to do is build the walls a bit away from the container to allow for the container's deformation, but yet keep our walls straight as possible. We also roughed in the electrical as we went, just so that I didn't have to go back and do it at the end. We went with a 2x4 construction, and there's certain areas, because of the way the containers are made, we actually had to put the 2x4s 90 degrees normal than what you would do the stud. This also makes it easier when you're trying to line up the wall board, but it does make it a little bit more difficult when you're putting in the soundproofing. But because it created a space behind it, we were able to merge the soundproofing behind these areas. We also had to fix any holes in the container prior to putting up the studded portions of the wall. We went with a urethane material because it would last longer and it's much more flexible. I wanted a large enough area so that we could have a green screen environment as well inside of the studios for videos and such. So I ended up making this about 18 feet by the full 8 foot of the container. It ends up an inside just under 7.5 feet. I continued to rough in with the electrical components, the boxes, pre-wiring up the connections so that when we get to the end it makes it much quicker. One thing to keep in mind, I like cleanliness while I'm working, so you'll see me clean a lot. I like to keep my floor area clean so I'm not stepping over things. I also like to lose tools. So now onto the most important part. What type of sound barrier will I use? I went with a rock wool brand insulation, which is a mineral wool. It is a fibrous material formed by spinning or drawing molten materials, whether it's rock or silica slag, ceramics. It's a very dense material. It is the best characteristics for soundproofing. It's a very high temperature and water resistant type insulation. You will see during the videos that it comes in 47-inch or, you know, close to 4-foot sections. They do that because the stuff is a little bit more heavier than your typical rollout bat insulation, and it's much easier to put in. I then use insulation supports to hold the material into the proper location. You will see in this video how I start with placing in the bottoms. I do use one support on each one, about middle way. I do this just so it doesn't fall out, but most of these were fitting very good and snug, as they should. If any of the 90-degree or flat pieces of 2x4, I actually got it behind the 2x4. There's really no rhyme or reason on which direction you're supposed to go here. But what I did is I did all the bottoms first, then I came back in and actually installed the top portions in. I did use 2 of the actual braces to hold these in because they wanted to fall out a little bit more, just due to the fact that they were up off the ground. I have to say that the rock wool insulation is very itchy stuff. It is not like the normal bat insulation, the pink stuff, the yellow stuff you're used to. It gets on anything and everything, and it itches tremendously. So I do want everybody to take caution when using this, to wear long sleeve shirts, zip them up to the top even when it's hot. So now on with the wall covering. So we chose 2 different style wall coverings. You will see a section of the wall covering where we use a typical outdoor screen, and then you will also see an area where we use pegboards. The reason why we used the outdoor screen is because I wanted one area that was very sound absorbent, where we could actually do our sound studio without getting any type of reverb from the wall. Yes, you can take it out in post-processing, but the cleaner your sound coming in, the better sound going out. The next material is pegboard. Now, I use pegboard because pegboard has holes at 1-inch increments squared all over the entire board. This allows sound to absorb into the product, but yet not reverb out as bad as a sheetrock wall. Next, if you notice, when I was doing the ceiling insulation, I ended up using 6-inch bat insulation. I did this both for cost and the fact that most of the soundproofing or sound density I needed was not in the ceiling, it was more in the walls. There's not many times where I look up at the ceiling to talk in a mic. So back to that famous thing, a little bit of cleanup. Now we're going to work on the actual finishing of the electrical and getting us power to all the places so that we can have pretty lights in the system. I went with a hot outlet and a switched outlet at each one of the lights so that I could do a switched or non-switched situational light.
Rough and finished.
But this is video 2. We will show in a future videos the actual finished product. So just as a little fun, I threw my disco light in there, thought I'd turn it into a disco room for a few minutes. You always got to have a little bit of fun here. So one last thing that we need is a door, so that's what's coming up next.
So the door construction is 2x4s with rock wool insulation, so it is just as soundproof as everything else is in the building. It is wrapped in indoor-outdoor carpet that allows for the sound to absorb into the sound material within the door. And taking a look, the first device is our 3D printer. One of the 3D printers is a CR10S fully modified, which will come up in another video by myself. We have a lot of options done to this thing. The other one is an iMega i3 Anycubic, really awesome tool. We'll talk more about this later. Something very important to have when you have your YouTube studio is plenty of storage. Now, whether that storage is cabinets or a way to store something, it is very important to store things. And as you can see here, I've created a quite elaborate way to store my cables, and we can talk about this more a little bit later. Let's continue panning around, and now we will talk about the computer. It's very important to have a very powerful PC and system whenever you're doing video editing. If you don't, the only bad thing you'll have is it'll take a lot of time to make your videos. So I went with an 8-core processor. I definitely recommend that being a minimum processor if you can build a PC to that degree. Monitors wise, you know what? The more monitors, the merrier. I've learned that for a long time. You can see in the setup, I only have one. I've actually taken one down just because I wanted extra room for this video. Having extra PCs is not a bad thing. The other black thing that's hanging underneath the cabinet with all the hoses and switches and gauges on it, that is a device for the Backyard DIY Engineering channel. It is our soldering station that we will be using. It has jet flow, it has tweezers, it has vacuum, it has desolder tool, it has a thermal tool, it also has thermal paste. So we'll get more into that once we get into projects within DIY. Next, you'll notice this darker region. There's one there and one behind me, and these regions are actually the sound audio regions of the room, where when you need to do the extreme voiceovers, where you need extreme quiet and you don't want anything in the background, like right now you can probably hear the 3D printer printing, you actually will speak up against those walls, and because they're open and they have nothing but a canvas or a screen layer in front of them, allowing the sound to just penetrate deep inside of the insulation and not reflect back into the microphone. It creates this very quiet, dense situation like you hear right now. Additional items that you should definitely have: USB extension over to an external USB hub somewhere close up to where your green screen area is. You're going to have lots of things that you're going to want to plug into that area. You're going to want to plug in phones, you're going to want to plug in lights, you're going to want to plug in sound devices, capture devices. It's really neat to have that away from the PC and close to where you're working. So what I've created is a hub and moved one over against the wall. Next, I'm just showing you a few of the tools that we'll use on the channel, including a drone and a 360 camera. Very important to have these types of camera systems. They really allow you to move forward and have some great cinematic shots. One thing very important that you have is good microphones and good sound capturing devices. I use a Focusrite with XLR condenser microphones. I'll talk more about what brands I have in a later feed, but I can tell you having good audio definitely decreases the amount of time that you have to do editing. And I don't want to sound like a broken record like many other YouTube channels that actually promote the same thing, but having a good microphone definitely makes a good video. So now let's move on to the green screen. One thing important with the green screen is having plenty of lights. I decided to make a project to actually build my own lights, which will definitely be another video that's coming out soon. But I can't stress lights more important than anything if you're trying to do a video studio with green screen or without green screen. Having good lighting is very, very important. Again, it's like sound. If you have good lighting, you won't have to do a lot of editing, and it is very important that you can see your target inside of your camera. Another must-have is plenty of tripods and devices that you can mount things on. Whether it's your cameras, your microphones, a microphone stand, it could also be a prop stand. You'll see here I've actually put a track in for my microphones in the ceiling, which allow me to move my mics forward and back and have them from the ceiling so you can't see them when I'm doing my green screen videos. Now moving on around, next we'll talk about, this is my area where I do all my voiceovers. As I was talking about on the wall behind me where it's a little dark, I actually put a sheet up over the dense insulation. This allows extreme sound absorption so I get no reverb into the microphone. This gives us our crystal clean voiceovers. So I want to do one more recap. Let's rotate around the room one more time. So check it out. Floor to ceiling, we have our sound dampening, very important in the YouTube studio. We went with white walls in all the video areas. to help reflect the lights and keep it bright. It's one important thing is when you can see your subject in your camera. Next, we'll move around the room, and you'll see that we have a really powerful computer. It's very important to a really good YouTube channel. Then we'll move into our sound areas, moving on around to our green screen area. That is the bread and butter. That really makes a great channel. Do you have to have it? Nope. But depending on what you're doing, it makes a really great tool. Finally, let's just talk about a complete material list. I use 2x4s. Use pegboard. I use bat insulation. I use rock wool insulation where I wanted all of my sound density and sound absorption. I used indoor-outdoor carpet. I used white sheets. I used green sheets. I used silk sheets for my light shields. And lastly, lots of screws. One key screw that I highly recommend that everyone keeps are drywall screws. They are a great multi-use screw. Whether you're screwing up drywall, you're screwing up thin wood, or you're just trying to mount something, they're very good screws. I also use some 3.5-inch deck screws. I decided not to use nails on this project just because screws seem to hold a little bit better, and I just prefer to drive screws and start banging hammers around. I want to tell everybody thank you, and I hope you enjoy this video. If there's any questions on what I did, how I did, please put them in comments below. Hit the subscribe button, pass the video around. I want to tell everybody thank you and have a great night. I could really use the support here. Please click subscribe, like, and comment. If you don't know how to click subscribe, just comment below. I'll help you with that. But subscribe supports this channel and continues the funding. Thank you.